A lot of people these days want to convert their attics into living spaces to maximize square footage, or at the very least, they want to condition their existing attic space. However, there are a lot of unintended consequences when converting what was originally a vented space or an uninsulated, unvented space into an insulated and sealed conditioned space, and we often see moisture problems and mold in attics that have been haphazardly converted into a living space. Why is this? It boils down to changes in heat flow and moisture balance. If we have an old, uninsulated, or poorly insulated attic space in a temperate or cold climate, we have a ton of heat flow from the interior blasting that attic space, keeping the backside of the sheathing warmer, and reducing the number of condensation hours. If there were any small leaks in that roof, they probably went unnoticed because things dried out relatively easily. But what happens when we fill those rafter cavities with insulation? Well, the backside of the sheathing stays colder, increasing the potential for condensation, and if there were any incidental leaks, they have a harder time drying out, and they stay wetter for a longer period of time due to the reduced heat flow. Well, can't we just vent the underside of the sheathing? Well, it's not always so simple. A lot of homes and buildings have very complex roof forms, especially homes constructed in the early 20th century, featuring multiple gables, dormers, and intersecting roof geometry that make venting downright impossible at some locations like valleys and dormer intersections, since we can't get continuous ventilation from the soffit to the ridge at these locations without installing something like perpendicular strapping above or below the existing rafters. So that makes things significantly more complicated when it comes to these attic conversions. We also have to deal with the fact that we need to air seal the interior space impeccably to ensure that a venting strategy is successful, as interior air leakage can deposit moisture on the backside of the sheathing even if you are venting that gap. Well, what if we used an unvented assembly? This tends to be the most reliable approach for attic conversions. However, we still need to be thinking about how we're providing a means of condensation control and moisture removal. The best way to prevent moisture issues in an unvented roof assembly is to install exterior rigid insulation outboard of the sheathing to warm up that condensing surface, and the amount of exterior rigid insulation that you'll need will vary depending on the climate zone and the amount of cavity insulation that you're planning to install. But we run into other problems with this as well. First of all, exterior rigid insulation installed outboard will obviously increase the buildup of the roof assembly, which can have an impact on architectural features and aesthetics, such as fascia size, eave design, trim details, and even the visual appearance of windows at dormer intersections. Sometimes we even have to downsize the windows in certain homes to accommodate this exterior rigid insulation, since the current windowsills are sometimes very close to the adjacent roof. Now, there are ways to minimize the visual impact of exterior rigid insulation, like conducting a chainsaw retrofit, in which the existing rafter overhangs are cut away so that they're flush with the exterior walls, and then you would reframe the overhangs above the existing roof sheathing, either with outriggers or some sort of strapping system. But overall, a lot of thought needs to go into using exterior rigid insulation if your home has more complex roof geometry. Can we address it from the interior if we don't want to re-roof or deal with the implications of exterior rigid insulation? Well, it depends, because we still need some form of condensation control, and oftentimes, closed-cell spray foam is applied to the underside of the roof sheathing to satisfy this requirement. However, we don't recommend this approach for several reasons. The first reason is that we've found that it can off-gas long after the initial installation, which can trigger respiratory issues for those who are sensitive to chemicals, and we'll be releasing our findings on that soon. The second reason is that if you're applying closed-cell spray foam to the underside of the roof sheathing in a cold climate, it has a higher potential of cracking, negating the effects of the air barrier, which is critical for this condensation control benefit. We have outward vapor drive during the colder months, which results in a small amount of moisture accumulation in the sheathing and in the upper part of the rafters. The sheathing is also kept colder, so it'll have a higher moisture content, as wood changes in moisture content with relative humidity, and the wood swells. When the sun comes out, it hits the surface of that roof, and moisture is driven back down, and the wood contracts, which sometimes can be significant enough to result in a crack at the seam between the foam and the rafter interface. That allows air to get into the upper parts of the assembly, resulting in condensation, but that condensation has a very hard time drying out because the closed-cell spray foam has a high R value per inch, and it's a vapor retarder, and we get rot over time. And a third point is that if you already have a small leak in the roof that's gone unnoticed, that closed-cell spray foam is going to trap that water, and you won't know that you'll have a problem until it's too late. Spray foam is also very difficult and expensive to remove and remediate, so we try to avoid it these days. So what do we do if we want to convert an attic space without addressing things from the exterior? One approach that we can take with these tricky existing building conditions is to treat the attic space as a conditioned space, but with a vented roof assembly or a vented over roof. We install perpendicular strapping to the underside of the rafters to facilitate airflow between each rafter, even the ones that don't receive soffit venting. And then we install taped rigid foam insulation to the underside of the strapping to provide the benefits of condensation control via an interior air barrier, a vapor retarder, and high thermal resistance. Typically, polyisocyanurate insulation is going to work best here since it has the highest R value per inch and is also quite strong. After we've taped the joints, we also need to make sure that we're air sealing these building transitions, like where it meets the exterior walls and any other building geometry. Typically, we're going to recommend a spray-applied air barrier membrane to help fill in any gaps, nooks, or crannies without resorting to spray foam. Then we can install an additional layer of 2x strapping over the rigid insulation to provide a substrate for your interior finishes. That gets fastened through the rigid insulation into that first layer of strapping or into the rafters beyond. However, there are still some challenges when it comes to this technique, especially if there's limited access to certain parts of the attic space, or if the added buildup of materials takes away too much headroom. I hope this clarifies a lot of the issues and challenges that we have when addressing tricky attic conditions, and why attic conversions require so much planning in advance. If you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like, and subscribe for more weekly building science videos, and head over to our website at ASIRI-designs.com, where we have over 150 free building science articles that cover a wide range of topics. Links will be in the description below. For now, good luck with your projects. Cheers. Every week, we get flooded with requests for consultations for projects both large and small in scale around the US and Canada, and sometimes even in Europe, and I'm pleased to announce that we're now offering general consulting services outside of our typical scope of plan and spec reviews and detail drawing development. Sometimes we're brought in just to answer questions and give guidance on how to best address certain aspects of a project, whether it's helping clients determine whether a vented or conditioned roof assembly makes sense based on their performance and durability goals, what type of insulation products to use, how to air seal very specific locations, how to retrofit capillary breaks and drainage, and so we're here as your resource in pre-construction to set you up for success. So how exactly does our general consulting service work, and what do you get? Due to the volume of requests that we receive each week, we obviously can't work with everyone, and so we've implemented a 10-hour minimum project scope, which is paid as a retainer, and that's just our minimum level of scope and engagement to make sure that we're giving your project sufficient attention throughout the entire process, and it also helps to keep things more manageable on our end. As you progress through your project, you will inevitably have some questions that will come up, and we're here to answer those questions as they come. You can schedule meetings with us, send us emails, request us to look into unique building conditions, and provide general feedback. We occasionally issue sketches and written documentation as needed to help clarify any points that we discussed, and provide additional educational resources for you and your team so that you can successfully move forward with your project with confidence. If you're looking for the additional help and need guidance on your project, but you're not quite at the point where you need detailed drawings or have architectural plans for us to review, this is the best service for you. So fill out the contact form below, give us some information about your project, and we'll be in touch soon. Cheers.